chair precisely positioned for the view of downtown. My inspiration board covered with color swatches and fabric samples. The custom lighting I'd installed myself, all being handed to someone who'd been with the company for exactly 3 days. The storage room? I asked, my voice impossibly steady despite the earthquake happening inside me. End of the hall. We've put a desk in there. Pearson adjusted his tie, not quite meeting my eyes. It's temporary, probably. The nephew, Ezra, sauntered forward and ran his finger along my desk. My desk, the one I'd used to design the collection that saved this company from bankruptcy last year. I'll take good care of it, he said with a wink. I smiled. Not the practiced corporate smile I'd perfected over 8 years of client meetings. A different smile altogether, one that made something flicker in Pearson's eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps even fear. Of course, I said, gathering my personal items into a cardboard box someone had thoughtfully placed on my chair. It's just an office. Ezra laughed, already settling into my chair, spinning it around like a child. One more thing, I added, pausing at the door, my voice honey-sweet. That desk drawer sticks sometimes. Has a special way of opening it. I'm sure I'll figure it out, Ezra replied dismissively. As I walked away, clutching my box of belongings, something cold and precise was already taking shape in my mind. They thought they were watching me leave in defeat. They had no idea they were watching me transform. What they'd done wasn't just unfair. It was their first mistake. And I never let a first mistake go unpunished. If you're enjoying this story of workplace betrayal, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to hear how this revenge tale unfolds. Trust me, what happens next is something you won't want to miss. Drop a comment about the worst workplace injustice you've ever experienced. I read every single one. My name is Tallulah Reed, not Tally, not Lou, Tallulah. The full 3 syllables demand attention, much like I do. At 34, I'd spent exactly 1/3 of my life climbing the ranks at Everest Designs, where I'd transformed from junior assistant to lead design strategist, through sheer force of will and undeniable talent. I've always been the person who stays latest, arrives earliest, and works through lunch, not because I'm desperate for approval, because I believe in excellence. My designs aren't just aesthetically pleasing. They solve problems people didn't even know they had. That's my gift. I see patterns others miss, including patterns of betrayal. The storage room Pearson had generously provided measured exactly 8 feet by 10 feet. One flickering fluorescent light, no windows, a desk that wobbled on uneven legs, the smell of old paper and something faintly chemical. The walls were lined with metal shelves overflowing with supplies, sample materials, and dusty catalogs from 2014. I placed my small potted succulent, the only plant that could survive in this lightless cave, on the corner of the desk and pulled out the folding chair. It creaked ominously under my weight. Through the thin walls, I could hear Ezra's laughter as he settled into my former space, showing off for visitors already. No doubt, the storage room door had no lock, meaning anyone could barge in at any time looking for paper clips or staples. I took a deep breath and opened my laptop. This wasn't the first time Pearson had shown his true colors. 3 years ago, he'd taken credit for my holiday collection concept during the board presentation. Last year, he'd forgotten to mention my name when accepting the Industry Innovation Award my designs had won. But this, giving away my workspace to his unqualified nephew, this was different. This was public humiliation. The walls of my new office seemed to press in closer. I reached for my water bottle, unscrewed the cap, and took a long drink. Then I opened a new document and began to type. Not designs, not concepts, something else entirely. The first week in the storage room was exactly as torturous as I'd anticipated. Constant interruptions from coworkers needing supplies. The temperature fluctuated between Arctic and tropical with no middle ground. My productivity plummeted as I struggled to concentrate with people walking in and out all day. Meanwhile, Ezra strutted around the office like royalty. Despite having 0 qualifications or experience in design, Pearson had given him the title Creative Innovation Specialist, a position that apparently required a lot of long lunches and personal calls on company time. Tallulah, do you have those concept boards for the Riverstone project? Pearson asked, poking his head into my storage room on Friday afternoon. Yes, I completed them yesterday, I replied, pulling up the files on my computer. I can send them over right now. Great. Send them to Ezra. He'll be presenting them to the client on Monday. My fingers froze over the keyboard. Excuse me? Ezra needs some wins to establish himself with the team. The Riverstone project is perfect. Straightforward, already developed. Just forward him all your notes and mock-ups. The injustice burned like acid in my throat. That's my project. I've been developing the relationship with Riverstone for over a year. Pearson's expression hardened. It's a company project, and I decide who presents to clients. Send Ezra the files before you leave today. After he left, I sat motionless, staring at my screen. This wasn't just about an office anymore. This was about my work, my reputation, my future. That evening, long after everyone else had gone home, I remained in my storage room. The building was eerily quiet as I searched through digital archives, hunting for information that might give me leverage. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, just something, anything, to help me understand why Pearson was so determined to elevate his nephew at my expense. At 9:47 p.m., frustrated and ready to give up, I noticed something odd. A financial report from last quarter showed a substantial payment to a consultant I'd never heard of, Carrick Co. The amount seemed excessive for the deliverables described. Curious, I dug deeper. 3 hours later, my eyes burning from staring at the screen, I had uncovered a pattern that made my heart race. Over the past 2 years, Pearson had authorized payments totaling over $800,000 to Carrick Co. for market research and competitive analysis, work that seemed suspiciously vague and impossible to verify. More interesting still, Carrick Co. had been registered just 3 weeks before receiving their first payment from our company. The registration was under the name Lydia Pearson, Director Pearson's sister, Ezra's mother. I leaned back in my chair, the pieces clicking into place. This wasn't just nepotism. This was potentially embezzlement, funneling company money to his sister through a fake consultancy. But I needed more evidence before I could act, and I needed to be very, very careful. The next morning, Saturday, I arrived at the office before dawn. Weekend security was minimal, just a sign-in sheet and cameras in the main areas. The executive floor, where Pearson's office was located, had keycard access, but as a department head, I still had clearance. My heart pounded as I swiped my card and entered the silent executive corridor. Pearson's office door was locked, but I wasn't planning to enter. Instead, I headed to the executive assistant's desk. Bridget had been Pearson's assistant for over a decade. If anyone had records of these consultancy arrangements, it would be her. I booted up her computer, grateful that IT had standardized all our systems last month. The login screen appeared, and I hesitated. This was crossing a line. If caught, I could lose my job, possibly face legal consequences. But then I remembered Ezra's smug face as he settled into my chair. I remembered 5 years of Pearson taking credit for my work. I remembered being banished to a storage closet after 8 years of dedication. I typed in the temporary password it had issued during the system update, the one most employees never bothered to change. The screen unlocked. Within minutes, I found what I was looking for. A folder labeled Carrick Co. Special Projects, containing correspondence between Pearson and his sister, detailed invoices for work never performed, and calendar entries for meetings that never happened. This was it. Proof of financial misconduct that could not only get Pearson fired, but potentially prosecuted. I plugged in my flash drive and began copying files. A noise in the hallway made me freeze. Footsteps. Someone else was in the office. I quickly closed the folders, ejected my drive, and shut down the computer. The footsteps grew louder, approaching the executive suite. I ducked behind a tall filing cabinet just as the door opened. Hello, anyone here? It was the weekend security guard making his rounds. I held my breath, pressing myself against the wall, praying he wouldn't do a thorough check. After what felt like an eternity, he sighed, mumbled something about sensors malfunctioning, and closed the door again. I waited 5 more minutes before emerging from my hiding spot, my legs trembling. I had what I needed. Now I had to decide what to do with it. Monday morning brought a new development. As I was organizing my cramped workspace, trying to create some semblance of functionality, Pearson appeared at my door. Company meeting in 30 minutes. Boardroom. Don't be late. His tone was clipped, his expression unreadable. In the boardroom, I took a seat at the back, noting that every employee was present, unusual for a Monday morning. Pearson stood at the front, Ezra beside him, looking uncommonly serious. I have an important announcement, Pearson began. Our CEO just confirmed that Visionary Partners will be visiting next week to discuss a potential acquisition of our company. Murmurs erupted around the room. Visionary Partners was one of the largest investment firms in the country. An acquisition could mean big changes, potentially positive for some, devastating for others. This is a crucial opportunity, Pearson continued. Each department will prepare a presentation showcasing their contributions and future potential. These presentations must demonstrate why Visionary should retain our current structure and personnel. His gaze swept the room, lingering briefly on me. Ezra will be presenting for the Design Strategy Department. The room went silent. Everyone knew that was my department, the one I'd built from nothing. He'll need all project files, client feedback, and success metrics by Wednesday, Pearson added, still looking at me. Any questions? I said nothing, my face carefully neutral. Inside, something had shifted. The stakes had just changed dramatically. This wasn't just about my office, or even about Pearson's financial misconduct anymore. This was about my entire department, my team, my projects, my legacy. As everyone filed out after the meeting, Mira, a junior designer who had joined my team last year, approached me. That's not right, she whispered. Everyone knows you built this department. Ezra doesn't even understand the basic design principles. I squeezed her arm gently. Don't worry about it. But Tallulah, trust me, I said, meeting her eyes. I know exactly what I'm doing. And for the first time since Pearson had given away my office, I truly did. That night, I didn't go home. Instead, I worked in my storage room, combing through years of project files, client communications, financial reports, and team evaluations. I created a comprehensive timeline documenting every success, every innovation, every dollar generated by my department. Then I cross-referenced it with the CAREC, co-payments, tracing how company resources had been diverted, while my team delivered results that kept the company profitable. By morning, I had compiled an irrefutable record of both my department's value and Pearson's betrayal. But exposing him directly would be too obvious, too easily dismissed as the bitterness of a demoted employee. I needed something more elegant, something irrefutable, something that would make Pearson and Ezra destroy themselves. As dawn broke, I finally understood exactly what needed to happen. The Visionary Partners visit wasn't an obstacle, it was an opportunity, the perfect stage for the performance I was about to orchestrate. I smiled in my dim storage room, surrounded by the evidence of years of exploitation and betrayal. Soon, very soon, they would understand the mistake they'd made. Because I wasn't just good at designing products, I was excellent at designing consequences. The next morning, I approached Ezra as he lounged in my former office, feet propped on my desk, scrolling through his phone. Here's everything you requested for the presentation, I said, placing a flash drive on the desk. All project files, success metrics, and client testimonials. Ezra barely glanced up. Just summarize it for me. I don't have time to go through all that. Of course, I replied, my voice professionally pleasant. But Director Pearson specifically asked me to provide the complete files. The Visionary Partners representatives are known for asking detailed questions. That caught his attention. Fear flickered across his face, the fear of someone who knows they're in over their head. Fine, leave it. As I turned to leave, he called after me. Hey, you'll be there, right? In case they ask something technical? I paused at the doorway. I'm not sure that would be appropriate. This is your presentation after all. Panic replaced fear. But I don't know this stuff. Uncle Graham just wants me to look good for my mom. Interesting. He just confirmed what I'd suspected about family dynamics. I tilted my head, considering him. He was younger than I'd initially thought, maybe 25. Privileged, certainly, but also a pawn in his family's game. I'll help you prepare, I offered. but I can't do the presentation for you. Relief washed over his face. Thanks. I owe you one. If only he knew how much. Over the next 3 days, I spent hours helping Ezra understand our department's work. I simplified complex concepts, created detailed notes, and guided him through the presentation structure. I was the perfect mentor, every patient, thorough, supportive, and strategic. Because while the flash drive contained legitimate projects and metrics, I had carefully curated them to tell a specific story, one that would lead to very specific questions from anyone with business acumen, questions Ezra wouldn't be able to answer. Meanwhile, I prepared a second presentation, the real one, and arranged for it to be accessible on the presentation computer as a backup file. On Thursday, Pearson called me to his office. "How's Ezra doing with the presentation prep?" he asked, attempting casual conversation while studying financial reports. "Very well," I replied truthfully. "He's memorized all the talking points." Pearson nodded, still not looking at me. "Good. This acquisition is important, Tallulah. For all of us." I noted the subtle threat in his tone. "Of course. That's why I've been so thorough in helping Ezra prepare." He finally met my eyes. "I know we've had our differences lately, but once this acquisition goes through, there could be new opportunities, better positions, for team players." The implication was clear. Play along now, get rewarded later. I smiled and nodded, the perfect subordinate. That evening, as I walked to my car in the nearly empty parking garage, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to find Bridget, Pearson's executive assistant, looking nervously over her shoulder. "Someone accessed my computer last weekend," she said without preamble. My heart skipped, but I kept my expression neutral. "That's concerning. Did you report it to IT?" "No." Her eyes held mine. "Because they looked at files only one other person would care about. Files about Carrick, Co." I said nothing, waiting. "I've worked for Graham for 12 years, she continued. "I've covered for him, made excuses, rearranged his schedule to hide his 2-hour lunches with his girlfriends from his wife. I've done everything he's asked." Her voice hardened, "including processing payments to his sister's fake company." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked carefully. "Because I know it was you who accessed those files, and I want you to know." She took a deep breath. "I have copies too, and dated notes about when he instructed me to process each payment." I stared at her, reassessing everything I thought I knew about quiet, efficient Bridget. "He promised me a director position once his sister had enough money to buy out the CEO's shares," she explained. "That was 3 years ago. Last week, he told me the executive floor would be streamlined after the acquisition. I'm being replaced with his nephew's girlfriend." The pieces clicked into place. Bridget wasn't just angry. She was fighting for survival. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want what you want," she replied. "Justice. And a future with this company." We stood in silence, evaluating each other. Finally, I nodded. "Come to my storage room tomorrow morning. Early." The day before the visionary partner's visit, tension in the office reached fever pitch. Departments scrambled to finalize presentations, everyone desperate to prove their value to the potential new owners. At 7 a.m., Bridget arrived at my storage room with a thumb drive and a stack of papers. "Everything is here. Payment authorizations, fake invoices, emails between Graham and Lydia planning the whole thing." She placed them on my desk. "What are you going to do?" I showed her my plan. Her eyes widened. "That's brilliant and terrifying." "It has to be both," I replied. "Are you sure you want to be involved?" "There's no going back." She straightened her spine. "I've been invisible for 12 years. I'm ready to be seen." We spent the day finalizing preparations, working separately to avoid suspicion. That evening, I received a panicked call from Ezra. "I can't do this," he blurted. "I was practicing, and I forgot everything. I don't understand half these terms. They're going to know I'm a fraud." "You are a fraud," I thought but didn't say. Instead, I reassured him. "Just follow the script we practiced. I'll be in the room if you need support." "Promise?" "I promise I'll be exactly where I need to be." The morning of the visionary partner's visit dawned bright and clear. I dressed carefully in a charcoal gray suit, professional, unmemorable, perfect for someone who intended to blend into the background until precisely the right moment. When I arrived, the office was transformed. Fresh flowers in the lobby, premium coffee service, every surface gleaming. The three visionary representatives, two men and a woman in impeccable suits, were already in the conference room with our CEO and executive team. Presentations began at 9 a.m. sharp. Each department had 30 minutes to showcase their value. By 11:30, it was our turn. Design Strategy, presented by Ezra Pearson, Creative Innovation Specialist. I slipped into the back of the room as Ezra approached the podium, visibly nervous. Pearson gave him an encouraging nod from his seat beside the visionary partner's lead. "Good morning," Ezra began, his voice cracking slightly. "I'm excited to show you the innovative work of our Design Strategy department." He clicked to the first slide, and I watched him relax slightly as he recognized the familiar content we'd practiced. He made it through the introduction smoothly, gaining confidence as he went. Then came the section on financial impacts. "Our design innovations have generated significant revenue growth," he continued, clicking to a graph showing impressive upward trends. "As you can see, our ROI has increased 42% year over year." The female visionary representative, Astrid Chen, according to her nameplate, leaned forward. "Impressive numbers. Can you walk us through how you achieved that growth despite the documented expenses to Carrick Co.?" Ezra froze. "Carrick Co. What?" "Carrick Co.," she repeated, glancing at her notes. "Your department allocated $812,000 to them over the past 2 years for market research. I'm curious how you maintained such strong margins despite that investment." Ezra looked panicked, turning to Pearson for help. Pearson's face had drained of color. That's not," Ezra stammered. "Perhaps we should move on to the next section," Pearson interjected smoothly. "We can address specific vendor relationships in the financial review." "Of course," Astrid smiled politely. "Please continue." Ezra fumbled to find his place, eventually clicking to the next slide, a detailed analysis of the design department's structure. "As head of the department," he continued shakily, "I've implemented a collaborative approach that—" "Excuse me," interrupted one of the male visionary representatives. "According to our background research, Tallulah Reed has led this department for the past 5 years. Are you co-directors?" Complete silence fell over the room. Ezra looked like a deer in headlights. Pearson's jaw clenched visibly. "There have been recent organizational changes," Pearson explained. "Ezra has taken over leadership while Ms. Reed focuses on technical execution." "I see," the man replied, making a note. "And these changes happened?" 3 weeks ago, Pearson answered. "Interesting timing," Astrid remarked, "just before our acquisition exploration began." The tension in the room was palpable. Ezra attempted to continue but kept losing his place, contradicting himself, and misrepresenting basic concepts. With each stumble, the visionary representatives exchanged increasingly skeptical glances. Finally, after a particularly confused explanation about our design process, Astrid raised her hand. "I apologize for interrupting again, but I'm having trouble reconciling the impressive portfolio you're showing with your explanations of how these designs were developed. Could we perhaps hear from someone with more hands-on involvement?" Pearson's face flushed. "Ezra has full knowledge of all department operations. Nevertheless," she insisted pleasantly, "I'd appreciate additional perspective." All eyes turned to me in the back of the room. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I stood slowly. "I'd be happy to address any questions." As I walked to the front, I caught Bridget's eye at the doorway. She gave me an imperceptible nod. "While I appreciate Ezra's presentation," I began, "I believe there's a more comprehensive way to understand our department's contribution." I reached for the presentation remote. "With your permission, I've prepared some supplementary materials that might provide clarity." Before Pearson could object, I clicked to access the hidden presentation file Bridget had uploaded that morning. The screen transitioned to a new title slide: Design Strategy, Complete Organizational and Financial Analysis. "What I'm about to show you," I continued calmly, "is the true story of our department." The room fell completely silent as I clicked to the first slide. A side-by-side comparison of department performance before and after I took leadership, with clear attribution of every major project and its financial impact. As I moved through the presentation, I systematically revealed not just the design successes, but the detailed financial records showing exactly when and how company funds had been diverted to Carrick Co. You'll notice, I explained, pointing to a particularly revealing graph, that these payments coincide precisely with our department's highest performing quarters, effectively masking the diverted funds. Pearson half rose from his chair. This is inappropriate and unauthorized. Actually, interrupted our CEO, her voice like ice, I'd very much like Ms. Reed to continue. The final section of my presentation included email exchanges between Pearson and his sister, complete with timestamps and verification codes, discussing how to disguise the payments and their plans to use the money to buy company shares. In conclusion, I finished. Our design department has consistently delivered exceptional value despite significant financial handicaps and recent organizational challenges. I smiled directly at the visionary partners team. I believe we could deliver even more impressive results under the right leadership. The silence that followed was absolute. Ezra had slumped into a chair, ashen-faced. Pearson stared at me with undisguised hatred. Finally, Astrid Chen closed her portfolio. This has been most illuminating, Ms. Reed. I believe we've seen everything we need to see. The CEO stood abruptly. I suggest we take a brief recess. Graham, my office. Now. As they filed out, the remaining visionary representative approached me. Impressive analysis, Ms. Reed. I have a feeling we'll be talking more about your future with the company. 3 hours later, the official announcement came. Visionary Partners would proceed with the acquisition, with several conditions: an immediate audit of all financial records, a restructuring of senior leadership, and my appointment as Executive Director of Innovation Strategy, NUAA, a new position reporting directly to the Acquisition Transition Team. Pearson and Ezra were escorted from the building that afternoon, their personal items to be shipped later. As security walked them out, I stood in the hallway, watching silently. Pearson stopped briefly beside me. "You've made a powerful enemy," he muttered. "No," I corrected him quietly. "I've removed one." That evening, I packed up my few belongings from the storage room and moved back into my former office. The view of the city at sunset was even more beautiful than I remembered. On the desk sat a small gift bag. Inside was a keycard and a note from Astrid Chen. "Your new executive suite is ready whenever you are. Looking forward to our partnership." I smiled, running my fingers along the edge of my desk, feeling the smooth wood grain. Everything had come full circle. The storage room wouldn't go to waste, though. I had plans to convert it into a creative retreat space for the team, a quiet place where ideas could develop undisturbed. After all, I knew firsthand how much clarity could come from working in unexpected places. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about revealing them for exactly who they are, then stepping aside as they destroy themselves. The most satisfying victories aren't won through force, but through patience, preparation, and perfect timing. I opened my laptop and began drafting my first company-wide memo as executive director. Subject line: Moving forward together. If you enjoyed this workplace revenge story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more satisfying tales of justice served. Have you ever witnessed someone getting exactly what they deserved at work? Share your stories in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do, it's what you reveal when the time is just right.